Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the post. This is the fifth hustings of the week as part of the Manchester Students' Union officer elections. I am Prasham Sheth, and I'm the head sports editor of the Mancunian, and this is the postgraduate officer hustings. Just now, we heard for the candidates for postgraduate officer. You can watch this and the previous five hustings on the Mancunian's Facebook and the SU's Facebook and YouTube channels. Joining me today are four candidates for the postgraduate officer position: Simon Wolgenbach, Julia Gerda Sok, Anurag Sharma, and Abdul Rahman Rauf. Shaukat Ashiti and Adam North were not able to join us today. Don't forget you can read their full manifestos on the SU website. With nearly 15,000 students on the postgraduate courses, this role is vital in ensuring postgrads are recognized and supported by the SU and the university. The postgrad officer is the lead representative of the postgrad research and the postgrad thought, speaking up for them on issues from well-being, support, and more. To begin, each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an introductory speech about themselves and their manifestos. When their 2 minutes are up, I will raise my hand to indicate that they should finish at the end of the sentence. Going up first is Simon Wolgenbach.
Hi. I'm Simon. I'm 29 from Germany, and I'm currently in the final stages of doing my PhD in philosophy. Right now, I'm the PGR part-time officer for the Faculty of Humanities, and as such, I've already had the chance to work closely with our current postgrad officer and sit, for instance, on the SU Senate and the Manchester Doctoral College. I decided to run in this year's elections because I love to dedicate myself full-time to building on the great work we've been doing over the past year. If elected, my priority will be to just ensure that postgrads' very different experiences and needs are reconsidered and accounted for, two of which I'd like to point out here. The first is that the SU undeniably has an issue with a lack of involvement from postgrads, particularly PGRs, which is why we're currently getting the foundation of a designated PGR association on the way, which will not only perform social functions, but also serve as a semi-autonomous body of representation. This option has found overwhelming support by our PGR community in our own surveys, and I'd be grateful for the chance to help establish it firmly over the course of the next academic year, so we can offer our 4,000 PGR students a forum where they feel heard and represented. A second big concern of mine is the mental health crisis among postgraduates. Recent research has pointed out that postgrads are significantly more likely to suffer from mental health conditions than both undergrads and the general population. And I firmly believe that the solution cannot lie in merely offering more and better interventions, but that we need to address the toxic academic culture that causes these issues in the first place. I've already successfully passed a policy committing the SU to acknowledge PGRs as a distinct population in its mental health institutional strategies, and if elected, I promise to apply the same scrutiny and dedication to identifying PGT's mental health needs. With a vote from me, you'll be voting for someone who already knows their way around the SU and the university, and who's got the experience to represent both masters and PhD students effectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Going up next is Julia.
Hey, everyone. My name is Julia, and one second, sorry. My name is Julia Gerda Sok. My pronouns are she, her. I am 22 from Estonia, and I'm doing my master's in organizational change and development. So I know a few things about implementing change, which I could use if I get elected. And I'm also currently a student representative. I did my undergraduate degree in journalism and communication in Estonia at the University of Tartu. The degree taught me valuable skills in engaging with different people and working as a team to reach our goals. I also have experience in communications, project management, journalism, and marketing. I've also volunteered in a feminist student organization in Germany. If I get elected for postgraduate officer, I will focus on students' mental health, student life, and finances to improve our student experience and ensure we get the most out of our time in the university. More specifically, I will arrange weekly support groups for students, make online one-on-one counseling available to everyone, and continue implementing and improving the current buddy scheme. I will encourage professors to use other platforms besides Zoom meetings to make learning more interactive and improve its quality. I will also explore if more practical degrees like chemistry or physics, for example, can get some face-to-face practices as it is crucial for their degree, and I'll work on improving the assessment pledge further. I will also ensure students understand where tuition fees are going and if there is room for reductions. I will make student accommodation contracts more flexible to help struggling students in this pandemic, and I will explore refund options for cancelled field trips for postgraduate degrees. On top of that, I will continue the Student Hardship Fund and create more options for financially struggling students. So to sum it all up, vote Julia for Postgraduate Officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Going up next is Anurag Sharma.
Thanks, Prisham. And good evening, everyone. I'm Anurag, studying MA Peace and Conflict Studies here in the University of Manchester, but practically I cannot see any peace of mind sort of thing anymore in majority of postgrad students. Well, I'm having 6+ years of experience in TV journalism and in Indian national politics, and currently I'm an elected representative of RAJCR also. So moving back to postgrads, postgraduate students have got just 1 year to get into uni life again, and what I have observed till now is not in favor of PGs. That's why I have mentioned in my manifesto that I'll fight on behalf of every PG student for the rent reduction for further semesters also, and also for the refund of cancelled educational tours. Also, just to enhance interaction between course mates, I lobby to organize course-wise short trips for all passing out PG students. Additionally, I'll work to set up scan, ride, and pay bike clusters around whole uni and fellow campus to make mobility and commute easier for students. And for differently abled students, I'll work on to facilitate them with golf cart, club buggy services to commute within campus. Further, I'll organize joint meetups for UG, PGs, and alumni, which will help PG students, especially international ones, to get more familiar with the educational system here, and also to get them more idea about the job sector. And being RAJCR representative, I got to know about many incidents happened in fellow field. So for that, I'll work with other elected exec members to include more women officers in university security and to enhance it with all capabilities. And things like setting up crates, separate support desk for parent PGs with kids, and establishing integrated app for unified services, including group chat feature and tourism information feature, will also be in my priority. At last, I would like to say and request everyone that this was all about my candidacy and my manifesto. Now go through all the manifestos. Voting is your power and your voice. Choose the best ones and make this university great again. Thank you.
Thank you, Anurag. Up next, we have Abdul Rahman Rauf.
Hi, thank you, Prasham. Hello, everyone. My name is Abdul Rahman Rauf, and a little bit about myself. This is now my 4th year in Manchester. I also did my undergrads from here, and I'm studying MSc Construction Project Management at the moment. Being a postgrad student is hectic as it is, but to also be an international student at the same time just kind of adds to the whole struggle. And this is basically what motivated me to run for the postgrad officer position, because I feel like we are lacking in terms of coordination between the student body and the university, especially in the postgrad field of study. If elected, what I plan to do is address the issues that pertain to mental health. For example, I personally know several people who are struggling to find UK-based guarantors, estranged people, estranged from their parents, people who are financially struggling, people who do not have UK-based guarantors. Although recently the rise of the students at Fallowfield is deemed a great victory, and indeed it is, I think the struggle is not over. I think we need to address issues that go beyond just university campuses, for example, private halls. There are other universities in the UK that are prepared to be guarantors for their students. I don't see why that our university cannot do the same. Furthermore, I think something that also needs to be addressed is interview support and job hunting. Someone who's a postgrad who just has 1 year to do this and find a job, we're paying, as international students, we're paying 20K plus for our degrees. And it's just not worth it in the end if we can't find a job. So I hope to bring reform that will help address that.
Thank you, Abdul. Now it's time for some questions submitted by the student body. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to answer, after which I will raise my hand again to indicate that it's time to wrap up. The first question is, a lot of students have expressed concern that they are not getting value for money during the pandemic. What are your thoughts on the standard of online learning and assessment offered by the university this past year? First up is Julia.
Thank you. Yes, as a postgraduate student, I agree that the quality is not very high, which is why I would work on implementing more interactive learning methods besides Zoom meetings that usually professors stick to because it's comfortable, and also for more practical degrees like chemistry or physics or just more practical degrees, I would like to explore if it's possible to get some lab work done because it's crucial for those degrees to get some face-to-face teaching to have that practical side to their degree as well, to make them successful in their job.
Thank you, Julia. Anurag, you can go next.
Yeah, that's a valid concern raised by the students. Being a postgrad student and international student, I'm tackling with all this stuff, and this is an actual problem we are facing right now. And so I think that before this national lockdown, university should have considered about the face-to-face learning for PGs, because they are here for just 1 year at least, and also they should have considered about the at least live seminars, face-to-face seminars. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Anurag. Next up is Simon.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Obviously, safety has to come first. And as long as it's not safe to be on campus, that's the way it will have to be. But I think we can all agree that this is not what a lot of us paid for when they signed up for the course in the first place. So it's my view that where possible, students should be given the option to take extensions until they actually receive the education they paid for in the first place. And where that's not possible, we should be talking about fee reductions. Obviously, I cannot promise that this is going to happen, but I can promise to do everything in my power if elected. But most importantly, I hope that this will be about damage control for what has happened, and that by the time we are, like, one of us is in office, we can all go back to face-to-face teaching, which is what university is for. Thank you.
Sorry, I think.
Sorry, my mic was off. Thank you, Simon. Up next is Abdul.
Yeah, I think this pretty much sums it up. I just want to give an example. I had a friend who did the same degree that I'm doing a couple of years ago, and he did it on a scholarship, and even he was paying much less than 9K at the time, and even he was wondering, is this really worth the money that I'm paying for? Now imagine having to do the same degree as an international student, paying 25K plus during COVID times, where it's all delivered online. The university constantly telling you, you know what, we're going to do our best to be able to resume face-to-face learning, and then they're saying they're going to do it in the second semester, and then it just kind of snowballs out of control, and you see no real effort being made by the university to actually deliver this course as well as it has to be. And Simon put it really well, I think, when he said that safety does come first, but we need to see more effort from the university.
Thank you, Abdul. The next question is, postgraduate research students have been impacted by disruptions to research and access to university facilities. What are your thoughts on the policies and support provided by the university to PGRs during the pandemic? First up is Simon.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes. Postgraduate research students have been impacted by disruptions to research and access to university facilities. What are your thoughts on the policies and support provided by the university to PGRs during the pandemic?
Thank you. Well, yeah, I was in the middle of this and part of pandemic PGRs who actually started lobbying UKRI for the funding extension. So I was really in the middle of this, and I think what we have now can only be a compromise that gets us over the first few meters and makes sure everybody can pay their rent for the moment. But the way that has been dealt with this was not sufficient. What I actually spoke to Nancy Rothwell earlier today, and what she assured me was that the step of the university to ensure 3.5-year funding for PhD students in the future should be taken by UKRI as well, and that the Russell Group, which we're currently chairing, will actually lobby for this. So this will hopefully help out in the future. As of the damage that is done, I think that I encourage everybody to take advantage or to make the most out of the extension policies that we have.
Thank you, Simon. Up next is Julia.
Thank you. Yes, this is a real difficult situation because I was also caught up in it in actually last year in my undergraduate degree, where I was struck with COVID and I had to somehow find a way to conduct the interviews qualitatively. So I feel like providing the options from the university, supporting students when they approach their sort of research people, that they would help this student more. Sorry, yeah.
You can finish your sentence, already.
Yeah. Just to finish up, like perhaps the university should provide sort of a statement letter to the PGRs so that they could have a university behind them, supporting them to get the interviewers that they want to get interviewed. Sorry, that was my point.
Thank you, Julia. Up next is Anurag.
Yeah, so my take will be like, I'll give the example of my flatmate. So my flatmate is one is doing chemistry, another one is a med students, and they have, like, till now they haven't been to any lab or on campus for any sort of learning. Even government is focusing, and even government have mentioned this in their guidelines, that for research focused courses, university can provide them on campus. So I think that they should have provided for this, and they have left with very less time now, so they should do something regarding this. Yeah.
Thank you, Anurag. You're next, Abdul.
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty much summed it up pretty well. I think it's really important that the university explores every option to give us the opportunity to be able to perform to our level best. I think it really comes down to point number 3 of the 5-point pledge of the university, that it will ensure that that the level of education that we're getting in during COVID times is at par with what the quality of education was being delivered earlier. And I think right now, how it is right now, I don't think that those standards are being met, not even close. And that's my time.
Thank you, Abdul. For the next question, reports indicate there is a mental health crisis amongst postgrads, which began even before the pandemic. What ideas do you have for improving support and a sense of community for postgraduate students? First is Abdul.
Sorry, could you please repeat the question again? My connection is a bit weak.
Reports indicate there is a mental health crisis amongst postgraduate students, which began even before the pandemic. What ideas do you have for improving support and a sense of community for postgrads?
Right. I think, first of all, mental health is something that's very close to my heart. I've worked on several societies and volunteer work during my undergrad time to support mental health wherever I can, especially in the Asian community where I belong. There's a lot of stigma. And in addressing that stigma, I think it's opened my eyes to a lot of different ways that we can employ as a university. The first and foremost of which is that there has to be no shame in reaching out to the university. And in fact, that the initiation, a lot of people who do struggle with mental health, the most difficult thing for them is to reach out. And I think that's where the university needs to step in and place policies and ensure that they are reaching out so that everyone's health is catered for.
Thank you, Abdul. Next up is Simon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've mentioned this in my introduction. This is very close to my manifesto, and we know that indeed postgrads are 6 times more likely than the general population to suffer from anxiety or depression, which is shocking. Like I said in my introduction, I think the university has excellent counseling services and the Wellbeing Project, etc. And we're doing a lot in terms of intervention. But I think what we need to start talking about is why is it the case that postgrads are significantly more likely to suffer from this in the first place? And it has to start with conducting our own research into this, to monitor successes that we make, and then talk about possible causes like funding, isolation, student-supervisor relationships, which I think mental health training should be compulsory part of supervisor training, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Up next is Julia.
Thank you. Yes, to add to the last points, I feel like postgraduates are usually more interested in the academic side of things, which is why they have gone for further studies. And therefore, I assume that, at least in my case, often I sort of associate my grades and my results with my self-worth, which in turn is detrimental to my mental health. And my campaign also focuses on mental health, and I feel like it's important to have one-to-one counseling for students, because not everyone is willing to openly discuss their mental health issues, even though there shouldn't be a stigma, but some people just feel more comfortable doing it one-to-one, and I don't think the university is supporting that very well at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. You're up next, Anurag.
Yeah, in this case of mental wellness, like university is providing service of like online counseling, telecounseling, but I'm not personally satisfied with all those things, because the person who will feel depressed, he is not going to call someone that for the counseling thing. There's only one way to enhance the interaction. The university should come up with some opportunity for student that they should choose their certain households, like 1 household or 2 households. So within them, they can do interactions or something. They can have food, they can have meal together sometimes in a week. So basically only interaction, just to enhance interaction things, can help in this case of mental wellness.
Thank you, Anurag. The next question is, putting thoughts of the pandemic aside, what is an academic, financial, or professional issue unique to postgrads which you would like to address? First up is Julia.
Thank you. So because of my campaign focusing mainly on pandemic issues, because I feel like they're very relevant, I think mental health is the one that's going to stick out of those, because pandemic aside, mental health is still a big issue, and the university is not providing enough support in that regard. And I would like to address postgraduates' mental health problems and how they could talk about them without the stigma, and if they could discuss it with other students or they could discuss it with a professional. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Up next is Simon.
Yeah, thank you. I've mentioned mental health already, which was an issue before COVID. But another thing that I've hinted at earlier was that we have about 13,000 postgrad students at the University of Manchester compared to, I think, 28,000 undergrad students. So we are naturally outnumbered. And I think what we need to make sure is that there are no assumptions that everybody's routines and experiences are the same. And for instance, when it comes to the assessment pledge, similarly, I think we need to understand that doing a postgrad is very different from the undergrad experience regarding daily routines, regarding assessment. There are huge differences between PGTs and PGRs as well. And I think this needs to be reflected in the way we are represented within the SU and within the university. I've already mentioned the PGR Association we're bringing on the way. And my top priority would be to make sure that PGTs also and PGRs receive the attention they need for their own experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Up next is Abdul. Abdul, your mic is muted. You need to unmute.
Sorry about that. I'm just saying, Prasham, could you please repeat the question?
Putting thoughts of the pandemic aside, what is an academic, financial, or professional issue unique to postgrads which you would like to address?
Right. Sorry about that. When you were speaking earlier, your connection kind of went away. Sorry, my connection kind of went away. Anyway, I think what is unique to postgrads is the daunting kind of sword hanging over our throats that we need to find a job afterwards. And I was making this point earlier, but unfortunately I ran out of time. What we need to do is we need to provide postgrad students with enough support that they can eventually go on to find jobs by creating simulations for assessment centers, interview support, creating forums where alumni and current students can come together. Because what undergrads have is maybe a little bit more of a leeway in terms of finding a job, but we're paying 20 odd K a year for our postgrad pursuit. But if we have nothing to show for it in a couple of years, it's worth nothing.
Thank you, Abdul. Up next is Anurag.
Yeah, so in this regard, like in terms of academic, there is a lack of support in being an international student. I wasn't familiar with the educational system and pattern here, so I was finding it difficult for the referencing things which you must be knowing. So I got less marks in my December submission just because of this. So they need to put some extra. They need to organize some extra seminar for these things. And if I'll talk about the financial things, then of course the part-time work opportunities are very less during these days, and university is having very huge fund, so they can provide the part-time work opportunities in university or in SUs, so for students, which will help them financially. Yeah, so they are the some few problems apart from funding.
Thank you, Anurag. That's all for today. Thank you all for taking part today. You can find the full manifestos of the candidates at manchesterstudentsunion.com/elections. Voting opens at 10 a.m. on Monday, 8th of March. Don't miss the chance to have your say. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Cheers.
Thank you.